Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here. And today we're going to be talking about some very interesting information, or more particularly, a very interesting trailer put out by Gaijin. And if you don't know, that's the company that makes War Thunder. So, Friday evening, Gaijin released a trailer for what I'm assuming is their next update called New Power. And in this trailer, we saw things like Nimitz-class nuclear-powered aircraft carrier, nuclear weapons, maybe, T-90, and several other very interesting things. And one of the other interesting things was the start of the trailer, which was this. Now, some of you might notice that those shapes coming out of the fog look very battleshipy like. That's because they are. Someone was able to enhance the picture, and this is what actually those ships are. And they are the Dreadnought, the Naval, the Gangut, the Dante, and the Kawachi, which you Warships players should recognize most of those as low-tier battleships. So those are like tier 3 and 4 battleships in Warships. So it does appear that battleships are in fact coming to War Thunder. And this was speculated much about when War Thunder started its naval battles testing. Back in the day, all they had were patrol boats and some light destroyers, but now they have things like the Fletcher, they have the Prinzregen, they have the Grafspee, they have Italian cruisers as well. So War Thunder's naval systems coming along fairly nicely, maybe. And now with battleships being released, this is now getting to the point where it is somewhat rivaling what Warships' offering of classes and ships available. Now, I don't think they're going to come out with full battleship lines until way later. Reality is these 5 ships that we're getting will probably be most of the battleships for this year or whenever this update gets released, especially at the speed naval development goes in War Thunder. So the question is this going to challenge Warships now that they are releasing full battleship lines? Well, they will, I'm assuming, eventually be releasing full battleship lines. I don't think so, because of just how War Thunder is. I mean, if you've played War Thunder Naval, it's boring. The mechanics are frustrating. And it's a lot more complex. Plus, the way the system works in War Thunder, it's not like Warships where, you have a destroyer line, you have a cruiser line, you have a battleship line. They're kind of all in the same line in Naval, unless they've changed it since the last time I played Naval, which has been a while since I've played Naval. I'm mostly focusing on grinding out the F4 right now. The grind is, that's another thing too, the grind's insane. It really is. So these battleships are going to be probably higher tier ships in the naval tree. And then you have to, of course, grind there in the first place, which, as I just mentioned, is very hard to do. Well, not really hard, it just takes an eternity. I've been casually grinding for the F4 since the start of all this Corona stuff. When all this Corona lockdown stuff happened, I was like, okay, now's the perfect time to actually play War Thunder and grind the F4 on the side of recording Warships content. And guys, I'm not there yet, and this was what, March, and it's October now. I've been playing air realistic battles with a premium plane, with a high tier premium plane, and just trying to get a couple kills every match, which does give you a decent amount of research points and silver lions with a premium count and with a premium plane. And I'm still not there yet. It's been over half a year. I'm still not there. And having sat down and like hardline grind it out, but compare that grind rate to Warships, where in that same amount of time I probably could have grinded up most of the tier 10 ships using a premium account and a premium ship and using all the boosters and stuff available to me, not with going a hardcore grind like I did for the Zao, but just grinding stuff on the side. I could have grinded God knows how many tier 10s by now if I really wanted to do that. But yeah, so that's one major hurdle, the grind. It's insane if you never played War Thunder. what is normally like modules and upgrades in wargaming games, like new engines, maybe different caliber guns or something like that, it's a whole new vehicle normally in War Thunder that you have to grind in order to proceed. Like, you can't just grind out the base vehicle and then move on to the next vehicle. You have to grind out these different variants too, like what is the Corsair? There's like 4 different Corsairs you have to grind through on the American aviation tech line. It's insane, and I mean, they obviously do it because they want you to spend money on things like premium time and boosters and stuff like that in War Thunder. But yeah, that's one major hurdle that's in the way of people jumping over to War Thunder Naval once battleships get released, and even when full lines of battleships get released, when they have like the Iowa and Yami, they're going to be obviously top tier ships that are going to take probably a year to grind for the average Joe. So there's that major obstacle right there. Next thing is obviously the mechanics of War Thunder. So War Thunder does not work like Water Warships. Water Warships, I find, has a very, very, very good balance between arcade and, quote-unquote simulation. It's got the better balance in my opinion. Now, like War Tanks, Water Warplanes, War Thunder, I believe hands down beats those, even with some of the more aggravating mechanics. I prefer War Thunder tanks to water tanks. I think everybody prefers War Thunder aviation to Water Warplanes. But Water Warships, they have like the speed of battle right. They've got the size of the maps right. They've got the filling of the ships right. They got most of the mechanics right. I know a lot of people say War Thunder is more in depth than Water Warships, but Water Warships is more than just a health bar on ships. It's actually pretty complex when you break everything down. They just hide a lot of the more complex features from you. Now, it's not as complex as War Thunder. Don't get me wrong, but it's not just your ship has this many health points. Have fun. There's a lot more that goes into it than that, and most of you Water Warships players know that. But still, the mechanics in War Thunder Naval that really suck is that it's just like War Thunder tanks. If you know where to shoot on a vehicle, you can one-shot it every single time. And it's like this with the ships as well. If you know where to shoot to hit the magazine on any ship, they're going to get detonated. Well, what would be detonated in Water Warships. So that ruins a lot of the really cool mechanics they have in War Thunder. So like the flooding mechanic, your ship actually lists when it floods in War Thunder Naval, which I actually like that. It's a nice touch. The crew getting knocked out, the buoyancy of the ship, the more water is in your ship, the lower it sits in the water line, and the harder it is to maneuver. And this ship obviously is going to tilt over a lot more when you turn when it's flooding. And the aiming mechanics, it's weird too because you got to take ranging shots in War Thunder Naval. And then you got to calculate range to target and all this stuff, which is automatically done for you in Water Warships when you lock onto a ship. So you got to do that, which is realistic and again is a nice touch. But still, it's a lot of it's ruined by the time you do all that, somebody simply just knows what they're doing. They can shoot you in the spot where they know to shoot you, and you're dead. It kind of sucks. And torpedoes often are one-shots too, especially if they hit you in your magazine area, which again, is kind of realistic, but again, also kind of sucks. You slip up once and then now you're dead instantly. So yeah, I know there's like respawning with different ships and stuff, and all this stuff where you do get more than one chance rather than like Water Warships, which again is kind of nice, but the mechanics are still pretty infuriating. The tanks mode suffers from these mechanics too, but it's a little easier to overcome those aggravations in tanks mode with good map awareness, and a lot of it too in the tanks mode is ground battle mode, my bad, is that the maps are really, really, really heavily at fault for this, because a lot of the maps in ground battles, they're just wide open maps to where players, again, if they know what they're doing, if they know where to aim, they can just one-shot you if you're not paying attention. And plus the spotting system's different and all this other stuff that leads to newer players having a really bad time in ground forces. But once you know what you're doing in ground forces, you can kind of keep up with it. I mean, I'm not the best tank player by any stretch of the imagination, but I've learned to cope in most places. But there's still plenty of aggravating one-shots in War Thunder. But yeah, those two things right there, I think, are going to be huge obstacles that War Thunder is going to have to overcome to really outdo World of Warships. Plus, we're not even mentioning. So take that insane grind, take that insane amount of one-shots, and apply that to battleships too. Where in War Thunder, you don't have a health bar on your ship. You have to legitimately like take out the ship and cause it to sink in order to get it out of the battle. So apply that to battleships, where they have the armor that's designed to counter battleship caliber guns, fighting against cruisers and destroyers. With how realistic War Thunder goes for, these destroyers and cruisers aren't going to be able to do jack against battleships besides obviously torpedoes. So yeah, I don't know how this is going to go. And then also take that, and the guns as well are just going to like go straight through destroyers and cruisers. It's not going to be like in World of Warships where you just get overpins and the ship carries on about its day. It's going to legitimately wreck these ships. So yeah, and again, I'm not like the foremost expert on War Thunder. I'm just giving you guys my opinion on, from my understanding of the game, how this is going to go. So I don't know how they're going to do that, if they're going to add in the overpin mechanic and in War Thunder, which is there, but for those of you that have played War Thunder, a shell that does go in one side of your tank and out the other side of your tank, even without exploding, still like annihilates your crew, and it does the same in ships as well. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes and see how long it takes for them to get to ships like the Iowa and the Yami. But for now, I still think, even with the addition of battleships, it might attract, well, it's going to attract new players to War Thunder Naval. I'm sure people who play World of Warships are going to hop on over to War Thunder Naval for a bit, but I don't think it's really going to have a huge drain on the game unless they really, I don't know, fix War Thunder. It's hard to say War Thunder Naval is broken, because it works in the War Thunder system, but it's not as enjoyable as World of Warships. I mean, that's just what I think. It's its own thing. It's pretty unique. The graphics are hands down nicer than World of Warships. I really do think War Thunder really needs to overhaul the graphical aspect of World of Warships, and maybe a new engine as well. That'd be kind of nice, especially like what they did with World of Tanks. If they would do that for World of Warships, that would be lovely, and I wish they would. But in all the aspects, I do think World of Warships is still the better game at the end of the day. A lot of the little details in War Thunder are very nice and very cool to see them take that into account. But World of Warships doesn't have the grind, doesn't have the enraging mechanics like War Thunder does. I mean, don't get me wrong, World of Warships has its own issues and its own quote-unquote fun mechanics. But the one-shot mechanic, I mean, imagine just getting one shot in your ship every single match. That's kind of what War Thunder Naval is like. Every now and then you might get a match where you do tank a lot in War Thunder Naval, but most of the time it's just some dude knows how to shoot you perfectly, just to set your ship up like a Roman candle. So that's what I think about this subject, guys. It'll be interesting to see how War Thunder Naval proceeds with battleships and such. But that is another video for another day once we get more information out about these battleships in War Thunder. Hope you guys enjoyed, and if you did, make sure to drop a like, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. We're on our way to 20,000 subscribers. We just passed 18,300. I cannot thank you guys enough for that. Hope you guys are having a wonderful Monday. I hope to see you guys in the next one.